everybody all set? John will be late, and Andy isn't going to be able to make it. Okay. Jay, take the card. You can sit next to Nancy if you'd like. No, you can stay there.
Okay.
Yeah, I was telling him to sit next to me. I don't know where all the chairs went to. The chairs are missing.
Go a bigger room.
There's one in the back corner.
It's all right. I think everybody's got a chair. If you're not a member of the committee, when you speak, state your name for the record so that Jamie can make sure she has attendance correctly. Everybody got the minutes for the 21st? I'd like a motion to approve them.
There was a correction.
Correction?
The spelling of Swinicky should be S-W-I-N-I-C-K-I. And there was also, under the funding recommendations, there was a line in there that said, in the minute that said something about major changes, but the actual wording was significant. So just to
Those are minor typos. I don't consider them substance typos of spelling.
The motion that we approved was to approve the minutes of January 2016, not January 2015. I don't know if it's a typo, but it's, I think it's significant. Just approve of that.
I have on my agenda the 16th. You're saying the minutes have the 17th, 15th?
The minutes for, are we talking about the minutes for February?
yeah.
February.
So up top it says a motion to approve the minutes of January 21st, 2015. We just might want to correct that date.
Okay. What about the February minutes? But this says January 21st, 2016. So do we have minutes for the February meeting?
These are the minutes from the February meeting. In the minutes of the February meeting, we approved the minutes of January.
Okay.
And I think 2015, and it should be.
In my agenda, it says approval of minutes for January 21st. So you meant February?
Yeah.
Okay.
That I didn't mean February.
So we already approved the January minutes at our last meeting, so we would like to approve the February minutes right now. Do we have those sent to us? We did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Find them.
Yeah, I just thought we should be
Right.
accurate on which minutes. Got it.
Does anybody have any questions on the February minutes? I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Ed and approved. Seconded, I mean. All in favor?
Aye.
And public comments. If you're not here to speak to an agenda item, you're welcome to speak now.
Comment? Okay.
You're on the agenda, so you'll have your hearing.
Right.
later,
Okay. Charlie, can you set up the thing on the easel?
Yeah, but we're not ready to do that yet. When we get to you.
Huh?
We're going to do the high school first.
Oh, okay.
Communication from city officials, account balances, open projects. Does anybody have any questions? These are on our minutes. Account balances, for instance. Do we have any communications that you wanted to bring up? Anyway?
I got 2 workshop notifications, one from the DPW for water resource management meeting.
Everybody got that? I got
It was
that.
included in the email I sent out, which is, and then there was, earlier today sent out there was a historic preservation workshops in Lincoln. There are 3 of them starting in, I think, May or June, and they're one in like August, another one in September. So people want to go to that, we'll set aside funding for,
There's funding available to send committee members to these meetings?
starting next fiscal year.
Oh, in July. When are these meetings again? I wasn't
It was
listening.
like May, August, and September.
So August and September, we would have funding.
Yeah. But I think it's only $10 or $15. Mostly it's the travel.
Does anybody have any questions about these possible workshops? We want to attend them at all? Okay. Account balances,
They haven't changed since last month. Currently, there's 60,000 reserved for open space, 60,000 reserved for historic preservation, 161,812 reserved for affordable housing, 615,352 in the undesignated fund, and 266,000 in the reserve fund, for a total of 1.16 million.
okay. Open projects, we've talked about those. I don't necessarily need any more information, but has anything happened since our last meeting on open projects?
Most of the balances have stayed the same. Most of the construction projects have been on hold for the winter, even though it was a mild winter.
Okay.
There were some small changes to some of the remaining balances for a couple of projects, but nothing significant. They're all still
Okay.
open.
Any other correspondence?
That's it.
Okay. Let's go to the hearings. My intention this evening to vote on the football field lighting. You've all received the budget as submitted by the applicants. In that budget I got quite a bit of packaging from Jamie. I've looked it over. The budget shows the cost individually for each area, including contingency of 10%, 15%, and 20%. As I recall from the last meeting, we were told that it's typical, and I agree that it's typical to have a contingency. We approved and rewrote our project funding worksheet, which details all of the conditions, stipulations, and restrictions. Like to ask superintendent and the applicants if they have any questions on those conditions, because they were amended based on our meeting last time, or if any committee members have them. That's this page, starting with 185,000 at the top. Everybody have that?
If anyone needs a copy of it.
Actually, I can.
Did you get one of those?
I'm going to read them for the record. Funds granted are $185,000, and it shows where the funds will be removed from our budget. Light poles must be designed and installed in such manner so as not to constrain the future build-out of a 6 to 8 lane, 400-meter track. All of the work funded by the CPA grant must be completed by no later than October 1st, 2016, unless the committee has granted an extension. Any and all funds not utilized by this date must be returned to the CPA, and no further payments, reimbursements will be made. Request to extend this date must be submitted in writing and show good cause. You may be required to appear before the committee to present this request. And as you recall, committee members, we extended that from September to October at a meeting prior to this. Periodic project updates to the committee are required. The first project update is due July 14th. Subsequent updates are due every 3 months from the date until the project is completed. Final written project report with photo documentation must be submitted within 30 days. A temporary project sign is required at the project site. Until construction of this project is complete, the sign must be legible from 200 feet away. State the project is funded by the Easthampton Community Preservation Act funds. We're okay with that? I know there was a question who's doing that. I assume the contractors are doing that. Who's putting that sign up?
Somebody, it would be either the football association or the contractor, one of the two.
Okay,
It'll get up.
okay.
If
You guys all heard that. That's important. No significant changes may be made to the scope of this project stipulated in this document. Hi, John.
Sorry.
That's no problem. CPA funds may only be used for items included in the attached project budget and/or within the project scope. No payments will be made in advance or for costs covered by or charged to any other funding source. All requests for direct payment must include the original invoice. Requests for reimbursement must include a copy of the original invoice and proof of payment. I must state that I'm glad I didn't start this idea of having this, but I think it's fantastic to have this included with every project we do, these kinds of conditions and stipulations. That means there's nothing assumed, okay? I know that, I think it was Scott that had a question on the soccer, is that right?
Yeah, but it seemed
I think it's been
answered in the
resolved.
email,
But
right?
Patty, I'd like you to address it for the record.
Sure. Do you want me to consider the Patty Doctor, the athletic director
Mhm.
in high school?
Good.
Yeah, so when I got that email, Tom and I had already discussed that, and I was pretty sure we were 100% good on it. I did go out and remeasure everything. So, yes, a standard soccer field and standard lacrosse field both would fit
Great.
within the footprint of this. And additionally, the way the track is set up, the track will be, everything is already inside it. It's not like the track's gonna be built into
The existing like dirt track that's there is our, great.
Yeah.
After I sent that email, actually, I went out and looked, and then I was like, it seemed like that was the case. I just didn't want it,
Yeah.
have assume and then go out and say, wait, actually, we wouldn't be able to do that anyway, so. Great, thank you.
I was pretty confident knowing that the football field was narrower and that when you expand it to soccer, the benches just go out and there'd be plenty of room for
Yep.
it. It's quite evident, and I state this for the record, that the committee is really hoping that this field will be used a lot more than just football. Soccer being one and any other sport that can use the field at night. And we've had those discussions. Committee members, do you have any question? There is a question I forgot to bring up. You'll notice in the contingency, 10, 15, and 20%. Right now, if we kept it at 185, it's slightly higher than the 182,000 that's listed in their budget as 10%. That's fine for me. I feel that's adequate, but I'd like, if you can tell us, football or Nancy, if that's sufficient contingency?
I looked to John to talk about that because he and Tom are the ones who.
You show 182 at 10%. Standard construction, not being a construction person, what's contingency?
Standard is between 10 and 15 is what we like to keep. Typically, we try to keep 15, but we've got what we feel are pretty good numbers from contractors on this. Sometimes we don't have, a lot of times they won't share that sort of information that we got, from people who are actually, would be bidding this.
Mhm.
So, we feel that, I agree with you, I think that, that the slightly above, I think somewhere around 12% would be good. Obviously, whatever we don't do is we go back. Anyway.
Yeah, and I wanted to state that I think the committee brought up, let's make sure they have enough funding. I think this was stated by us last time. And I'm okay if the committee feels we can go to 190 with this if we want to. Committee members, I'm okay at either figure. 185 seems about right. But one of the comments I think people made last time was, why make them come back if they suddenly need more money? So I'm opening the floor to what anybody thinks about that figure. Yes, Harry?
We get the money back if they don't spend it.
It's what's in the conditions, it always
Right.
is. So should we raise it in your opinion
Yeah.
to 190?
Yeah, as long as we're gonna get the money back, they're not gonna spend, sure.
It's not like our budget is hurting either, guys, so,
Well, I just want to,
okay, great.
I think the reason we had 185,000 last meeting was in part because the contingency that was built into the original amount by the applicants was $20,000 and was deemed sufficient at the time when they first applied. So the $20,000 on top of 165.5 would be 185.5.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, if it's 11%, it's $20,000, which is what they asked for originally. I'm just as happy to sign off on it at 185.
Yeah, you're right.
I could go either way. Anybody else?
I agree with Greg.
I think you're right.
185 is sufficient, I'm hearing down there.
We'll know when we, based on the numbers that we have now, it appears that it should be. Again, it's construction, and there is a variable within it, depending on how busy people are, how much work's out there.
Any other comments or questions from the committee on anything other than the budget, the project, anything? We've talked about this at length. Satisfied with the documents you've received, committee members? I have a motion here then. I'll ask, I want to know that the motion includes that these conditions be met. Can we read that motion?
Motion to recommend the appropriation of $185,000 from the open space and undesignated fund accounts to the Easthampton Public Schools for the purchase and installation of athletic field lighting at the White Brook Middle School as stipulated on the project funding worksheet dated March 24th, 2016.
Need a second.
Second.
Committee discussion.
Second that.
Scott?
Thank you.
Any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So it's unanimous minus Andy. 8-0. You got your funds. Well, you don't have your funds yet. This now goes before the city council, and this funding and all documents can be digitally sent to Barbara, okay, with the vote of the committee. And believe it or not, I'm the chairman of the finance committee. You're never seeing me again. Any member of the committee that wants to come and speak to this at the finance level, what's going to happen, it'll be introduced at the April meeting. And on the April 13th meeting, we'll probably discuss it. And it'll be public hearing in the first meeting in May. That's when it'll be approved. We'll vote it down. I hope not. All right. Council has been quite positive towards CPA requesting that. Okay?
Thank you, and thank you for your support of this project, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Now, we have Pomeroy Meadow. You guys want to set up your thing and just, I guess what typically happens is you present everything to the committee and what you're doing and what you're asking for. The committee, I assume, absorbs this and then comes back with questions at the next meeting. Correct, guys? You guys have been here longer than I. Is that the proper way we've done this? Are you guys with this presentation?
Yeah, Charlie.
Would you make sure that Jamie knows who you are when you...
Jamie, you know, Charlie McDonald, and that's Marlon Hanks. We're both on the conservation commission.
John Broder, I'm actually,
You're dealing with this too?
we're helping them out as well, so.
Okay, this is good. Face the camera.
You're right about that 10%. That was because they started built in 10%, so there shouldn't be any more than that.
I think I'll set it at the table. You want to set it at the table?
The budget was submitted to the
Yeah,
mayor,
yeah.
so we didn't have to do this.
No, I was just giving it the record copy.
Yeah, I do.
Everybody have the documents? CPA? Make sure the camera can see. I think it can. Yeah. There you go. Okay?
So I thought I'd bring that up. What do you think? Make any sense?
Can I just have to ask a question of the...
Purchased it myself, but I didn't read it through, so.
Can I get a pointer?
Yeah.
You got some time? We gave the Patronic Trust almost $200,000 towards this project. Okay? This was in a Gazette, big printout, environmental, really nice, you know. Sitting was exactly what they did, got access to everything, you know, everybody loves it. 2 pages.
Yeah, it was great.
Now, one sentence about the CPA gave you guys cash. Not one little sentence, not one little paragraph, just
You
one.
didn't write the article,
I didn't write that, I didn't even know about it.
You know?
Yeah, you read it.
I thought I'd bring this to your attention. I mean, you know, we're not here to be.
Well, bring it to Marty Klein's attention, he's the one that heads the project. Yeah, it should have been mentioned.
Well, that's why we asked for signs
But,
from now on.
you know, there's gonna be a sign there saying what the CPA did anyway, so it'll be covered.
Barry, a letter to the editor.
They didn't write it too.
All right, so, my name is
Somebody
John.
wrote it, so I know, it didn't get this way by nothing.
My name is John Bader. I'm the president of the Economic Conservation Trust in town. We own somewhere around 14 parcels in town, and maybe almost 190 acres. And we helped to save a lot of extra land, especially up in the Park Hill area over the years. So we've been around a while, since '82. And if you're probably wondering right now, what is the SCPCT? Well, it's a coalition between Southampton, Easthampton, and the Economic Conservation Trust. And on the Southampton side, it's mostly the Southampton Conservation Commission. On the Easthampton side is the trust and the planning board and Easthampton Concom. And some of the members of the Concom have done a site visit over on Pomeroy Meadows, and we showed them exactly where the bridge is going to go, which is a big part of this project. So the project description and goals, well, it consists of, it's going to connect the trails of the Whittemore Conservation Area in Southampton, which is off Pomeroy Lane, or at the end of the cul-de-sac at Meadow Lane, which is off Pomeroy Meadow Road. I'll get to the map later. So that'll connect the lower trail, goes through a bog, and they're going to have to build a bog bridge, which would look something like this, or a little fancier. We're looking at price options and ways of doing it. That's it on it. And when we get to the bank of the river, which would take us about 250 feet actually to the bog, we're going to build a bridge. And right now we're thinking of a fiberglass bridge. It comes in sections. Maybe 2 people can handle a section, Charlie? Right? Yeah. Charlie McDonald from the Conservation Commission. And I forgot your name already.
Marla Hank.
Okay, she's also from the Conservation. And this is what the bridge might look like. And actually, that's a pretty close replication of the Manhattan River. It's not taken at the Manhattan River, but it'll be where this is, where it's going to be located. It's going to be a little deeper water and wider. That's the only difference there.
Could you pass that around? Any other picture as well?
Huh?
Could you pass that around in the other picture as well?
Where is it located? Is it in Easthampton?
It's in.
I know it's connecting
It's
the
going to
both
be
trails.
located between in Easthampton and Southampton.
The
river-
bridge connects between the two properties, the city
Yeah.
lines?
It connects between Pomeroy Meadows and the Whittemore Conservation Area. This is,
I'm talking about the city.
The river is the border.
Yeah.
The river is the border? I just don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
all right, so anyway, that's one thing we're gonna do, and there's also gonna be a parking lot constructed. This is the end of cul-de-sac. This is where the entrance is to Whittemore property. Pomeroy Meadow Road, and then Meadow Lane. And that'll probably cost around $14,000. And then, so what are the positive aspects of this project? Well, recreational trails connectivity, which is the main feature of this project, is a big thing now, and it's getting bigger. Either you're connecting 2 or more towns with nature trails or recreational trails, or you're connecting 2 or more parcels, conservation parcels, owned by different, usually owned by different conservation groups. So this is a great start. I don't think we have anything like this in the area, really, and especially putting a bridge of this size, which would be about 45 to 60 feet across a major river. So this is going to be an exciting project, but it's going to be complicated though, and expensive.
Can I ask a question?
Pardon?
I just want to ask a question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, are you done with your presentation? I'll ask a question.
I'm not done, you can ask a question anytime.
This is being, you have $86,000 as your budget. How much of the budget is being supported by Southampton? How much of it is supported by the Easthampton?
Well, we're working on just dividing the monies from CPA, both sides, Southampton and Easthampton, well, mainly for the bridge part. So we're, minimum is, we're asking 18,000 from each CPA committee.
Okay, so the rest of the funding is from the private entities involved.
Well, we got a grant for $50,000.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
Is that
from the
listed in here?
DCR.
Was that listed in here someplace? Did I miss that?
Under number 2
And
there.
this is a ceremony we had over in the front of the entrance of Whittemore. We have Sharon's right there, and.
Oh, there it is.
That's
Okay,
where
I see.
Yeah, that's where we accepted the check, 50,000. It's one of the bigger checks that the groups around here got.
So those funds are committed, you've got those in hand?
Pardon?
The 50,000 from DCR, those are committed funds, you guys have those funds in hand already?
No.
Excuse me, the administrative center will be Southampton, and all the paperwork has been given to the DCR, which are gonna transfer that to the state, and they're gonna give us a contract, and maybe within the 50,000 will be available to us.
Is there any contingency that CPA funds be made available before the state releases those funds? Sometimes that happens in these.
I haven't heard about any such contingency so far, but we are at a very early stage. The reason we're here is just to inform you of some of the dimensions of this project as we fill them out. Time.
Yeah, we're still in the planning stages. We're still finding out how much the project's gonna ultimately cost and what it's gonna involve. We have 3 engineering firms getting bids for a feasibility study and engineering study and all this stuff. And we have to get an NOI from both sides and we have to get a special license, I think, because in Manhattan, we found out it's considered to be a navigable waterway, and you have to.
Really?
Yeah. Well, for canoes and kayaks and
I
stuff
guess
like
so,
that. Yeah.
high river.
Yeah, and the bridge has to be raised up enough so they can get underneath the bridge. It's gotta be long enough so it can
All right.
withstand flood stage and everything.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Harry?
Yeah.
Isn't this gonna also plan Paul Street and kind of indirectly?
Paul Street is,
It's way up the upper end, but is that sort of gonna tie that in?
that's part of Pomeroy. And that's gonna have an entrance there into our trail system. Yeah, yeah. Our trail system begins right here. The project, the housing project, like eight houses or so,
Yeah,
it's right
yeah,
here.
right in the back.
And that's where we're gonna run it, and right into here someplace.
Yeah.
So are there existing trails there?
Pardon?
Are there existing trails on the Easthampton side now?
Well, this, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the red lines are.
And
The
so-
red lines are the trails.
Where's
This is
the
Manhattan
access?
River. Let me go, oh, you guys are pushing me, I'll have to.
Sorry.
I'll have to show you, okay, yeah.
Where's the bridge right now on the map? Show me where the bridge is.
The bridge is gonna go right
there, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so this is Manhattan River, Hampton condos, and then Main Street would be running over and back here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a right-of-way, or it's a gas line, I think it's a gas line, that runs through the property here. This is a proposed trail by Hampton condos.
It doesn't exist, the red line?
It doesn't exist.
What exists there then,
Everything else, all the red lines.
except for the one red
Yeah,
line you just?
so if we're coming from Ranch Avenue, we're going up here and crossing over the right-of-way here, and then you can branch off here on a spur trail, and you can get there's a viewing platform here that overlooks a pond
Mm-hmm,
called the Frog Pond, and close to the river.
mm-hmm,
Then you go back here, this is a field we own,
mm-hmm.
all the way up the gully and up to here. So actually, the trail ends someplace over here right now, but we're gonna have to extend it up to the bridge. maybe 200 feet.
And this trail down below is being built by someone else?
This is the proposed trail by Hamden Condos. It's on hold right now. It probably may not get done, but yeah, we were planning on putting it.
You helping them with that? And
Yeah, I mean, it's just something in the future.
okay.
Okay, so once you cross here, this is the Bog Bridge area, right here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the loop of the.
And that's Southampton.
Southampton's trail, right. This is, you start down here. This little spur trail goes on the old canal, which is historical aspect right here, educational. It's a nice walkway and tall trees, and you can see it, how it's set up. We have a shot here. Okay, right here, you pass this around. This is basically what it looks like. The Manhattan River floodplain down to the left. The towpath is right in the middle, and right to the right is the where the waterway was, dugout waterway.
Scott, you have a question?
Yeah, so where is the existing trail access now? On the Easthampton side?
On the Easthampton side, it's mainly at Ranch Avenue.
Where?
And we'll have, as I said, we'll have another one from the cul-de-sac there.
It looks like it's just starting in the middle of a clump of trees, so I think that's where his question's coming from. Is that an avenue there that's hidden by trees?
Yeah.
The aerial map's old. There's a new subdivision of 8 or 9 houses at the end of that street.
And it's not on this, Paul Street is not on the map, this map that you sent?
Ranch Ave on
Or
there?
Ranch Ave? It's off of Main Street, I assume, or?
Yeah.
Well,
I've rounded that. There's
Oh, okay.
access for it.
Got it, so it's one of these essentially?
It's one, this one that runs parallel to Main Street, and we come up to the trail there.
Got it,
So,
Okay.
End of Ranch Avenue.
okay, got it. All right, thank you.
okay. Oh, so another,
So I guess that's.
and it's also
Sorry, why did that?
close to the Manhattan Rail Trail, so once
Not
people
online,
start
it's so
coming
funny,
and
right?
walking in here, they park their bikes at the entrances and hop on a Manhattan Rail Trail in a few minutes. Either on
Can we have-
Coleman
can we
Road
have-
or.
can we have one
guys,
conversation?
guys.
Sorry, it's hard to take minutes when it's.
Okay. So he just said that it's close to the Manhattan Rail Trail?
Yeah,
Where's the Manhattan Rail Trail on your map? Is it off the map somewhere?
well, it's basically off the, you can't really see it here, it's up this way.
Okay. All right, means, yep.
Well, you know,
Where'd you
Ranch
get that?
Avenue is off South Street.
Google Earth, okay.
Ranch Avenue is off South Street, so you cross Main Street and on the other end of South Street, you get on the trail there.
Can I say something here?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's kind of a stretch, when you say that's by the Manhattan Rail Trail, that's maybe a good 2 miles,
No,
or at least a mile, from Paul Street down to South Street?
no.
What's the south part of the state, is it? No.
Maybe it's 3/4 of a mile.
That's my neighborhood.
Okay,
You
the
cross,
whole
you
project.
go down south, you cross Main and you're right there.
Yeah,
too
yeah,
far.
it's not far, not 2 miles.
What's the password for,
Steve Yost is looking at it. Steven's-
All right, so,
although it's-
Gotta be at least a mile. It has to be.
and it has also, there are also plans on connecting other areas and conservation areas in Southampton, especially the Shipta Farm. You could go this way, along back past the towpath. There are a bunch of horse ranches in the area. Go behind those, we're trying to get the rights to go behind there and eventually hook up to the Shipta Farm on, was it Glendale Road? Yeah, in Southampton. So that's another possibility. And so it's gonna make available a lot of passive recreation, biking, hiking, nature photography, nature study, the works. That's why we're so excited about it. And I said the bridge project is nothing like it around here. And we have a timeline. We want to try to get done with March and April. We're trying to get the CP meetings in Southampton and Easthampton. April and September, bridge analysis, engineering consultants, NOIs, there's Chapter 91 waterways license, that's the big license there. And select engineering consultants. We have 3 companies, as I said. One is Ty and Bond. So May and August, Easthampton, Southampton support. Southampton Town Meeting warrant approval, hopefully. And in Easthampton, hopefully a CPC award. June, July, engineering studies. You gotta make soil tests, you gotta take bore samples. Bridge crossing location is gonna be defined, and permits finalized, and hopefully, and the bridge design defined. August, bridge document, RFB bridge bids with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and design services, RFB award. September, bridge design manufacturer, and October and November, hopefully the bridge construction. Now, this is just a tentative affair. The way it looks now, we might have to extend this into next spring or further. It takes a long time to get all these things done, all these permits in there. Every time you look around, there's a new permit to get. So, cost, let me run down the approximate. This is very approximate right now. We're giving you a rough idea. So we got a grant for $50,000, DCR. We want the joint expenses, Southampton, Easthampton, to cover feasibility study, bridge supports, and soil location. That would be somewhere around $15,000. Engineering study, $10,000. Construction of 2 footings for the bridge, $10,000 or $5,000 on each side. 2 NOIs and other permits, $6,000. 4-inch wide fiberglass pedestrian bridge. Shipping, RFB with PVP's help, $45,000 at the low estimate. Total, $86,000. 86,000 minus 5,000 equals 36,000, divided by 2 is 18,000 apiece, as it stands now, but as I said, that may very well rise. We're not here to give you an exact figure right now, just a general idea of what we're doing. Set the thing up. Southampton Whittemore Development, Southampton CPC contribution would hopefully be 18,000. The walkway to bridge in Southampton will be around 25,000. That's the bog bridge, low estimate. And a parking lot somewhere around 14,000. A total of 57,000. Now that's the Southampton side. So that's it in a nutshell. That's my story, but I'm not sticking to it. It may change.
So, a lot of this is gonna depend on your feasibility study done by engineers, correct?
Feasibility
They're gonna give you
and the engineering.
a more accurate budget
Right.
after
Oh,
that.
definitely. Charlie,
It seems to me, and I don't know how the committee's done this in the past, it seems to me, once that study's done, we would have a more accurate budget. And
Well, yeah.
you might be asking for more than $18,000,
Yeah,
is
as
what I'm hearing.
I said, this is the lowest.
Okay. Do you have the funding to get this study done? Because I don't think the committee's prepared to say, oh, we're just gonna give you $18,000. I'm not. How does this process work for you in the sense that you have to have the feasibility study so you can come back to us with a more accurate presentation? Am I right?
Right. Right?
So, yes, sir.
Charlie can tell.
Yeah. As far as funding is concerned, we have that $50,000. And I've talked to Amanda Lewis and the DCR, and we have filled out all the required paperwork such that they can give us a contract, hopefully within a month, that would give us access to that 50,000.
And you can use that.
Yes. And as described, this project is covering two entities, 2 municipal entities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna require each having a notice of intent. And we're going to have to subdivide the cost of the project, especially only those costs associated with the bridge, between the 2, Easthampton and Southampton. The route from the Whittemore up there is about 35 acres, and it has been opened in recent, last 2 or 3 years with an Eagle Scout project, and we have also worked with Conservation Works to upgrade that trail, mainly because of the work that Pascomic has done on the Pomeroy Meadows Trail, they've been very effective. And so both trails on both pieces of property are in pretty good shape. The connection is what we're dealing with. And the bridge project itself should be considered independent of any work that's going to be done in Southampton for the trail from the parking area at the end of Meadow Lane. We have a 4-car parking area there that will be connecting it to the trails on the Whittemore. But that's, the work on the Whittemore is going to be a Southampton project in itself. As far as additional funding is concerned, I have talked with the CPC in Southampton. The numbers that we have here are very tentative indeed, as is the time frame. But I've talked to the CPC. We anticipate that, and again, in Southampton, we have to have a town meeting and a vote, and we might anticipate that being in late summer. So how much money we ask for will be defined at least by that time. Again, the sequence, and we might get counsel here, the sequence is do the feasibility study. Tell us where it's best to put it, what the soil conditions are, what's the best type of bridge to put in there. As of right now, we're thinking it's a fiberglass bridge. So we do the feasibility study, and then we move on. Once we define the type of bridge, we move on to the engineering studies. And once we've done that, then we go to the permits. And on either end of this bridge, we're going to have support structures, cement likely, with riprap. So we are going to require maybe a restoration program, because we may be taking a riverfront area of 200 to 300 square feet and putting it under cement and riprap. So that's going to cause some issues with the permitting of this project, and we put in a number of 6,000. Again, my preference at this point would have Conservation Works help us, because they've already been in contact with the DEP, but that's tentative at this point. Again, we are at a stage where we have to go through state procurement laws and get competitive bids. We're going after a feasibility study, which might be 15,000, an engineering study, which might be similar in cost, the approvals on permits, that might be especially delineating the area that we're talking about. And then there's eventually construction, and I think the people who do the supports are different from the people who build the bridge, and how this committee, the Southampton, Easthampton, Pascomic Conservation Trust Committee, sorts all this out, is still up in the air.
It seems to me that before you come back to us, you're gonna need that engineering study and your feasibility study, so you can come up with a budget.
That's right.
My first guess, I'm not a construction guy, but I think $18,000 might be the low.
Very low, I think.
Well, I did too.
So I'm wondering why you, it's nice that you came and told us about all this, but putting a figure in there starts us with a low figure. And I don't know about the other committee members, but I'm, thinking that you're gonna have to come back to us in a month or two, once you get all that study, and ask for the real deal.
Oh, yes.
And it may be a lot more, which doesn't mean that I'm opposed to it, of course not.
No.
But, I think you've got some homework to do before the CPA can take this up as an official request, because, and guys, you help me out. I don't know how this has happened before, those of you who've been on the committee before. But I would like a real budget and a real figure before we start pondering, is this a good thing to do? But
Oh, yeah, we figured that, we know that.
it's nice that we know it's coming. I mean,
That's,
This is just an introduction.
That's solely our intent.
just an introduction. Okay, well,
It's a-
that's
it's a-
good.
It's a meet and greet, huh?
Okay.
To the project.
It sounds great. I mean,
I actually appreciate having a pre-look at the project, and I know you're pretty much just introducing it to us, knowing that you're gonna have to come back to us a little later.
If anybody wants to have a site visit, we can arrange that easily.
I think that would be appropriate, but I'd love to see that you feel that you're comfortable that your funding can happen.
Yeah.
Because if, let's say you need 60,000 in CPA money, 30 from both communities. You're gonna have to get a feel from each committee if that's gonna happen before you go out to bid, because you're gonna have to have that money in place before you start building something. So you're gonna spend money on the feasibility study. Then you're gonna have to convince the committees to give you the funding to fill in the gap. Right? Am I
Yes,
right?
absolutely, and I think we do, from personal interaction with the CPC committee, and so that we have the support. But they're saying exactly what you're saying, get us out of
We
here.
have the
Well-
mayor's support, she's all for it, the planning board's all for it, the Concom's all for it, you know.
I mean, we just.
I don't think anybody in this room is necessarily
Yeah.
against it. I'm just saying, we're not ready to, I mean, we need a lot more information, and I think you know that, we know that, so that's good.
That's-
Yes, Scott?
Just, I'm not sure it matters, but just for point of clarity, do we know that the town line is the middle of the river, not the bank?
Do you know that, Jamie?
I'm just thinking, I know like the Connecticut River in New Hampshire and Vermont, New Hampshire owns all those bridges and pays for upkeep of them all, because like the state line is actually the Vermont bank.
So
And so, I don't know,
I'd have to look at that.
I think it's the middle, but.
I think generally it's the middle, but the property is owned by PCT on the Easthampton side. The city has a conservation restriction on it. On the Southampton side, it's owned by the Southampton Conservation Commission. So there is.
I'm not sure it would have an effect, like what effect it would have. I just think it would be good to know for sure what town the bridge will be in. What, you know what I mean? Will,
It sounds like it's gonna be on both sides.
but like, will it be in the middle or will it be on one of the
Yeah.
bank? Just for like clarity.
Yeah,
Like
well,
I said, the middle of the
I'm
river.
not sure it will matter, but
The middle of the river is the boundary, I guess, isn't it?
Well, they gotta get permits, obviously, from both planning
Yeah,
departments, and I don't know how far those permits have to go. The other thing, though, that I just thought of when you come back is I'd like to hear a maintenance agreement between the two communities, and if that's in writing in a contract to say that, oh, you're not coming back to us 10 years from now because the bridge has to be fixed and Southampton won't do it. You know,
Yeah,
we'd like to make sure that you're gonna build something that's gonna be maintained and who's gonna maintain it. I know you guys are all friendly, but these are just questions.
Oh, yeah, we've gotta work out those agreements, but, the bridge itself, should, be
Fiberglass could
very
last a
little
long time.
maintenance for years.
Unless we have a flood.
Well, yeah,
as part of
sweep
the
it off.
engineering study, you have to account for a 100-year flood. And so the bridge, as I understand it from this rough discussions, has to be at least 10 feet above the water level, at least. And that
Okay.
means it's not 45 feet, it may be 60 feet.
Because it has to be far enough out and raised high enough,
Yeah.
and you need, you know, your engineering study's gonna tell you a lot.
Well,
Yeah, the
this
core
is our
samples,
first
they
bridge also.
tell you that. Any other questions?
Construction on 2 footings, 10,000?
That's
A
low.
low figure.
Yeah, yeah.
This guy in New Hampshire, I've heard he's good.
He lives under a bridge.
this, I've got a question, it might actually be for Jamie and Dan, and I don't know how this would work, but just looking ahead, one thing that I would want to see if this moved forward is greater awareness of the trails that are there. I mean, I've driven right by there, or biked by there a ton, never knew it was there. And I don't know if there's any way to, like, sort of in the process, somehow direct CPA funds toward us, like, essentially I'd want a sign on Main Street with an arrow saying that this is up there. And I don't know how that might work within our purview, but that's something I'd like to think about and figure
Well,
out
I think
how that might work.
In other words, I think what he's saying is the trust ought to consider advertising the fact that you have trails.
Right.
In other words,
Right.
put a, you know, Manhattan Rail Trail is obviously, that's got signs everywhere.
So I can just, I think about a year ago, Pascoma Conservation Trust came to the Zoning Board of Appeals to get approval for signs at this property and a couple other properties that they own throughout the city. I don't know the intent of when those signs were intended to be installed. But there was one or two, and I did see they
One at
were
Paul-
large signs.
Paul Street
that-
would be maybe a few weeks or months, it could,
Yeah.
depends, you know, we gotta make the trail entrance first. We
Because-
have a sign
well-
at Ranch Avenue.
I'm actually talking about signs not at the trailhead, because if it's down at the trailhead at Ranch Avenue, no one's gonna see it. I'm talking about signs that actually aren't on their property, but on essentially a road sign, you know what I mean, that would be a city sign that
Well,
would
it's
direct
something
that.
we
And so
haven't-
I don't know how that would work, I guess I'm just.
If it's legal, if we can do it, fine. If it's something we haven't thought about, but it's a good idea.
The city of Easthampton owns the right of way on roads, and DPW can put a
Right.
sign up anywhere. We have to, if Pasquamic Trust or some entity like the CPA wants to fund a sign, the problem is the DPW doesn't have the money for it, so we have to have the sign made and put it up. I certainly don't have an objection to that. I'd like to see the fact that we have these rail trails more advertised.
Right.
I think it's great.
In
I mean,
Southampton-
I agree, yeah.
Excuse me, in Southampton, we have 600 acres of conservation land with the Conservation Commission is responsible for. And we have 4 sections now that have been cleared for trails and so on. But we've used frequently CPC money to put signs up on the road in the various areas. We also have brochures of other trails with GPS data on it and some history of them and so on. And we are putting that also on our website in the town, so. these-
And Easthampton city government has a new website coming out, and it's gonna be on there. We can ask for that.
Yeah.
So, Dan, what you're saying is that the way it could work potentially is that that we could approve money as part of this project to go to DPW to fund a sign for this, or.
I think if we get, if.
Or how, you know,
I'm not sure, it might be planning department.
I mean, I think if the committee wanted to go down that route, I could take some time to figure out, you know, what work.
What process work? We need a process.
yeah, that's what I'm, that's, I
It
mean,
would sort
since
of-
we're at the beginning of this, I mean, that's what I'm
Yeah.
figuring out the process. I would actually want, I would, that could be in the request for funds from us for that, to be able to, and that's something I'd like to.
I'd love to see pictures of your signs. This is a sign that exists on Route 10 that says there's a trail
Right.
up ahead on the left, or whatever.
I can forward
I mean, if you have those signs, you forward them to Jamie.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's part of what we'd like to do.
Yeah, we used to use sign graphics here at
Mhm.
150 down here.
And if you have
We're out
one
of
that,
business, unfortunately, so we're moving on.
but if you have a cost of what it costs for you to get these signs done,
Yeah.
I'm assuming Southampton's DPW put them up.
Uh,
Somebody
in
put 'em up.
Some places, yeah, so we also got some construction people to help us, but they help us very much.
But you have to have permission to put it in city
That's right.
property and that stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Well, if you tell us what that is, the trust can put that into their proposal.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the point is to make people aware that the trails are there. So
Right.
really, in a way, an all-of-the-above approach is probably advisable. I know in meetings I've attended before, we've talked about a trail guide and maps brochure for all of the Easthampton trails. You could do ribbon cutting for the bridge itself, which is an event that
Well,
might
we're gonna,
attract
yeah, that'll be in
attention.
there, yeah.
Things like that, so I would think that's.
Do you have brochures and things like that?
Hmm?
Rail brochures, you have those?
We have brochures for, general brochures, yeah, not for every trail,
No, but a map that shows all the trails in East
Yeah.
Hampton.
Yeah.
That might be at the Chamber of Commerce, so if someone wants to come and
Yeah.
Oh,
walk your
yeah,
trails.
yeah.
Do you have those? I know you have them, I'm asking.
Okay, I have them in the car, I'll drop them off before I leave. A big one for conservation lands in Southampton and 3 smaller ones for 3 hiking trails. We have those.
What we're saying, Chuck, is that if that's something you need, if we're gonna approve funding, I think what I'm hearing is, if we're gonna approve funding for improvements in your trails,
Yeah.
we'd like people to know they exist. And if that means you need funding to get publications done, whatever, consider that as part of your request to us.
Yeah.
Because I think that's very feasible, why not? We're gonna have money spent on recreation, why not advertise that it exists? I don't know where these trails are, I lived here for 30-some years. Of course, I'm not a walker, but that's my.
You're probably also gonna face questions about, you know, how do you assess the benefit of a project like this? How do you assess the use of a project like this as far as the number of people? I mean, I don't really know how you guys go about, it must be sort of inexact to estimate the number of people or the number of times that a trail system gets used in a year. But I think that's part of the thought process, at least for me personally, in approving a project like this. At some point, a project like this becomes great to do, but cost prohibitive. And if you know, and so that's part of the calculus for using taxpayer dollars here in Easthampton. At what point do we stop considering a project like this because the benefit to the community just isn't there?
Well, I'm 100% sure that there's gonna be a 100% benefit to this project. I mean, every trail we put in, the people, we do know, we have a record, we have trail monitors, and there's people using these trails every day.
I love the, you know, I love the trails that you've done here, and there's been a lot that's been done in the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm just prepping you for the kind of answers that I guess I'd like you to be ready for in future meetings.
Yeah. One of the things I'll say, as I've been on the finance committee, the discussion has been when we've approved CPA funding in the past for football fields, soccer fields, baseball fields being done. Those are specific, high-cost recreation projects. And the comment has always been, what are we doing for passive recreation, for hikers and things? And when these come up, council's been very much in favor of them because it's something other than games.
Right,
And to me, I agree with you to a certain extent, but we need to provide for the kind of people that need that kind of activity that is different than the recreation money, where we spend a lot of money on recreation from our budget. We just spent $500,000 on football fields. I mean, to me, this is a small project compared to that, and the benefit may not be the same as the amount of numbers of kids that are using all the fields that we've supported. But this, to me, I guess I'm gonna say, I don't know what the percentage of use is, but it's not something that I'm gonna put up as a priority. I know it's gonna be used, I know it's gonna be good for Easthampton, and with the publications, it's gonna be attractive to get people to come to Easthampton, because we have it existing. You can walk now from Easthampton all the way, you don't have to forge a river. So, I like it from that point of view, and I know that's been discussed previously.
I've been out in that parcel a lot, it's not far from my house, and I can tell you that I have thought, being out there, boy, wouldn't it be great if there was a bridge here to go to the other side?
yeah.
I think you have a vote.
No, but I was wondering, assuming this goes swimmingly, which entity?
I don't know if that's the word you want to use for bridge.
Yeah, I know, yeah, right. Assuming this goes well, which entity do you foresee being responsible for the design and the construction? Would it be Easthampton, Southampton, or the trust itself?
Well,
I
probably
think we're gonna make a joint decision on
combination.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's gotta
We
be.
get estimates and, you know, procurement laws require us to get bids in from any companies that are available making a fiberglass bridge.
Well,
Yeah, but who's
this
the
isn't
entity?
public-
Is it
This
a-
isn't public land. I mean, this is not land that's owned by the city of Easthampton or the city of Southampton.
private.
Well, it's owned
No,
by.
so the
trust
it
is
is-
private.
So to the extent that, you know.
It's owned by the city of Southampton.
Oh,
They
is it
become a
on the Southampton
Or the
partnership.
side?
the town.
But
Yeah.
they become a partnership when they ask for the contract, the partnership of the two conservation commissions and trusts. That's,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's how it works, because it's private. I don't think the cities, or the town of Southampton, or the city of Easthampton is involved, except for the taxpayer money we're gonna fund.
Right.
The
So we did
PCT will have,
apply-
you know-
The DCR grant had Easthampton, Southampton, and Pascomic as the applicants.
Oh, really?
We got the money,
Okay, well, there you go.
So it's a joint funding application
Yeah.
to DCR.
yeah.
So it's a joint funding application to us and to Southampton. Okay. Any other questions from the committee on this? This is an introduction to a proposal that will be coming.
So, I'm just noticing, you know, this is, I think it mentions somewhere in here, Southampton, Easthampton's open space and master plans. So the bridge proposal is consistent with those. Given that this is a sort of, I guess I'm wondering, it's marked as a recreation project, as far as the type of CPA funds that, or, you know, project that it is, but I'm,
Well, it's
what's
more
the
of a-
difference between an open space?
It's more an open space project, there's recreation involved, there's education involved, there's history involved, but
So I'm throwing that out there, I guess, partly for the committee's ears to consider, you know, is this an open space, or do we have a preference? Is there any, I mean, it seems like this is a project that really has both recreational and open space, and, you know.
Well, definitely.
But
So,
it fits the criteria of the law. It's open space and recreation.
I'm not debating that.
Oh, okay, I didn't know what you were.
There's a box here that you check for open space or recreation, right?
Oh.
And then, you know, on a regular basis, we have amounts that are reserved, and the reserved, specific reserves are for open space, historic preservation, and affordable housing. There's nothing that has to be reserved for recreation. So we have essentially restricted dollars we have to reserve for open space, but is that right? But we
Well,
don't
just
have.
after the recommendation to fund the football field, that 60,000 in open space
Is
is now
gonna be
zero.
gone anyhow.
So,
I'm just throwing it out there as a question, you know, whether, if there's any context for recreation versus open space in the project. I haven't noticed that it was labeled as recreation.
I always
Seems
thought,
like it
and
could be
I don't
right.
know, I always thought open space and recreation were one category, but I don't know. What's the law? I mean, you have affordable housing, you have historic preservation, and you have open space / recreation, I thought.
right, and the reason why there's a distinction is because under the original CPA Act, the funding, what you could spend CPA funds on for recreation dollars were only projects that were bought originally with CPA money. So we couldn't have.
Renovation.
Prior to 2012, we could not have renovated the football field. We couldn't have done any of the soccer or baseball in Nonotuck Park. So recreation was a separate part of open space and recreation, but you couldn't use funds on recreation projects. So that's why it's sort of separate. And now that distinction is, I think, blurred some because
Now
we
they
can
allow-
use CPA funds to fund any recreation project.
No, I understand that, but, so for clarity then, you're saying that the amounts that are reserved for open space can be used for
Recreation.
the football field, for
Yes.
instance?
Yes, that is why we,
I've been operating under a different understanding, okay.
My understanding was that they were the same category, but because, just my understanding.
Right.
And I know that what really bothered me was we couldn't renovate the football field or the baseball fields prior to 2012 because they existed, and they weren't fully funded originally by CPA funds. But now, we can renovate any park or anything we want with CPA funds, regardless of when it was built or who built it or who paid for it. So that's good. Any other questions from the committee? Kind of want to wrap this up if there's anything else. You guys have anything else? So, I'm going to say this. Try to get all your ducks in a row before you come back to us, because this was a great presentation, but I think the next step is having a lot of figures that are more accurate, okay?
Yeah, we realize that. yes.
And I want to say for myself, I don't care if that $18,000 figure doubles, triples, quadruples. I like the project.
Yeah.
This is why I think it's unfortunate you put a figure in there right away, because now we have that in our head. But it sounds to me like that's a real low figure for a bridge,
That's, yes, I think it'll be.
because you have to get all the engineering studies first, and that's $25,000 right there out of your 50 that you have. So, I don't know. I don't know much about bridge building, but it seems to me it's gonna cost a lot.
Yeah,
I have
big-
to-
Yes?
It's a complicated affair.
Jamie?
just for procedure, are they going to be at the next meeting, or are we waiting till they?
We're gonna wait, I think,
We're gonna
committee,
have it
until
back.
they have something to send
Yeah,
us,
we don't
right?
know exactly when it's, we're gonna have the final figures.
I sent a brochure of that bridge down, I'm not leaving without it. It's somewhere.
Well, we thank you for considering our proposal.
You're welcome, and we think it's a great.
happen.
Thanks a lot.
I guess I'm coming to you.
That's in my paper somewhere. What else is on our list? Okay, committee, we have nothing on the 21st. Let's let them leave. Our meeting on the 21st will be dependent on if Jamie has agenda items we need to deal with. Right now, we have nothing, unless they come back or we have a new proposal. So, keep it on the books. in case we have one, but, one of the things that I've always wondered about, like, we have $1.6 million, $1.1 million in the bank. I wish we got more proposals. I mean, it's money that we could be using. I mean, appropriate proposals. We have nothing, so.
Have you ever sought out people, just in the past, or something?
We have they're working on
I've
it.
sought out people.
I mean, there's, yeah, you have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've sought out people, right?
Yeah, and so generally the committee has been reactive to proposals. I can't speak for much before I started working for the city. But if the CPA wants to take on a project, there's some amount of administrative time that I can devote to, doing legwork and things like that. And if I'm directed by the committee to like look into things, or, this signage, if the committee wants to explore that more and creating signs at all parcels, some parcels, whatever, we can go down that road.
Project that caught my eye recently that was in the news was the renovation of the two houses on the Rotary on Route 10. One of which apparently is maybe the oldest house in Easthampton. I think I read that in the Gazette.
Yeah, second
The guy
oldest
from
house.
the guy from Nicky D's is taking those properties, which are currently an absolute eyesore, and restoring their historic value, and they're right in the center of town.
Don't
Read
they
that
have
in the
to be-
paper, and I thought, that's a
They
good
have to
use
be designated as historic.
Historic structures.
Structures, right, don't they, before we can deal with them?
No, that they have to be locally historic, or on one of the state register or the
That's what I
national
mean, it
register.
has to be on a register. doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. It could be designated locally historic, but the Emily Williston Library is not on any of the registers. We've done projects, we did a roof and a boiler there, and that's because the Easthampton Historic Commission has designated that locally as important, as historically significant, but it is not, there's no national register listing or state register
So
listing
if
associated
the
with it.
Easthampton Historic Commission registers these homes or considers them historic, then they can apply.
Being the
But
representative.
somebody has to, in other
Yeah,
words,
but-
designate
Of
them
course,
rather than us.
the developer may not want that, 'cause then there's all the rigmarole with having
Right, so
historic
if,
structure.
yeah, there,
That's true.
Being the representative of that commission.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wait a minute, let me see what your sign says. Historic Commission.
So.
That's
And Harry's
funny.
on it too.
Too.
Yeah. I just want everyone to know that is currently on the agenda. It just came up.
Oh,
It's
really?
fresh. So-
Cool.
So that is currently
Yeah.
in discussion at the last meeting and the upcoming meeting next
Is the
week.
developer interested in that?
Yeah, they have just submitted, and we are currently just checking off the boxes to see that their ducks are in a row and what the considerations are.
Well, this brings up a good point. You're the Historic Commission representative, Ed's the Housing Authority, Conservation Commission. You guys are on committees that can send us projects, like you are.
Yes.
So if there's a project out there that you're aware of, especially in housing or something, boy,
Which is actually a question I wanted to ask, in fact. So, one of the things we're looking to submit from the Historic Commission is money for an inventory of the historic homes in the town limits. But I'm not familiar with how that process works, whether it would be me as an individual or us as a group, how we apply to the CPA for
I would think
monies
the
for-
Historic Commission as a group, and you would have to find someone who could give you a budget on who would do that kind of inventory, et cetera.
it's similar to, there was, a few years ago, the Housing Partnership submitted to the CPA a request for housing rehabilitation, and also to promote affordable housing. So they asked the CPA to fund, I think it was $300,000. 200 eventually made it to the Parsons Street development, and 100,000 went to do housing rehab. So after the committee got the funds, or as part of that process, they had developed a request for request for information or request for responses, so that way they were able to issue a public bid on that and choose. So the committee managed the bidders and who took it on. So I think the planning department was also involved at the time and working with the historic commission, working with the the housing, the affordable housing partnership.
So
If that's helpful.
I think the commission has certainly the right, I'm looking for the right word, the right to submit on their own
Okay.
a project of this magnitude, and obviously knowing how the process works, the more information you can give the committee, the budget, who's doing the inventory, and why you think it's valuable, et cetera.
Right.
All of that, but I would think you, the housing authority, as you just said, has done it. If anything like that wants to be presented, let's get all the ducks in a row.
It's actually one of the things that we've been discussing. In fact, there are two things that sort of in lieu of the advance notice that we just saw. One that's a little further down the line is to do a ground penetrating radar survey of the area designated by the DAR down by Clapp Street. We were advised, it's been 5 years ago, I think now, when they did the historic, I forget the phrasing, it was, but it's basically for historic land. So not homes, not buildings, but historic land properties of interest to the town. And we had somebody from the state come in, and she advised us that because that area is still just fields, cornfields, that it would be good to get that surveyed before anything else is put on it, and we can't take down a building to do the GPR survey.
This is the Fort Hill area?
Yep. So.
Why would the ground penetrating radar make sure it's not a burial ground or something?
Actually, to make sure it is a burial ground, which is one of the things. So I actually have, in fact, I have one right here.
Cool.
Which I can even give you an advanced early dollar amount, if you're interested. 15,000 is what they're proposing it would cost to, this is UMass who does this, the UMass Archaeological Services. And so they did an excellent prep for us, but the commission, the Historic Commission, has only recently gathered since this was submitted, and so it's currently a topic on the agenda and might be something that we would try to propose in this cycle. But I'm speaking,
cool.
I'm speaking very early on and without really having yet fully consulted with the rest of the team on this. I'm just kind of making it an advance notice statement. And same goes with this historic survey of historic homes that we're talking about, which we have no idea what the funding would be for that.
I think it's appropriate as long as it meets the law, standards of the CPA law. Store does.
Okay.
Cool. Anybody else have any ideas?
I mean, I like the idea that, I think that's the part of Easthampton where the very first white settlers had their homes, right? And there
Yep.
was-
So we're worried about it
Well, there's
being
also-
developed for construction when we shouldn't, because it might be a burial ground, or?
It's also the site of a native settlement.
Cool.
Yeah, right there at the Oxbow.
So there might be artifacts that you want.
Yeah, and in fact, if everyone wants it, I can share the results of their pre-study, the work that they did, which was pretty extensive. When I requested this area, what would it cost?
You mean they being UMass?
UMass Archaeological Services. They've given us a really great document that gives you a good idea of the historic value of that area. And
Well, we certainly want that if you're gonna make a proposal.
yeah, so it's.
I don't need
But
it
you
now.
can, you can forward it on to me. I'd be
I'll
interested
just,
in
I'll
that.
just
It's
forward it
just-
for you, because it's
Sure.
basically, at this point, should be a public document, really. Whether we proceed on that for the funds is another question, but basically, I'm happy to make that available, because the work's been done.
It's cool, it's the same thing, you're doing some good work, they're doing good work, people need to know about it. Okay, anything else? So we'll leave it up in the air on the 21st. Jamie will send out, if you got something new, I don't wanna have a meeting just to approve minutes. Okay.
So unless I get a response back from
Or
the
if
partnership.
John brings something forward and you really want us to discuss it. I like these introductory things, okay? I think they're important. I don't think I want that if that's the only thing on the agenda, because a lot of us, you guys are all volunteers and you're busy. I'd like us to have a good we had a meaty meeting tonight, this was good, but I'd like them to be good meetings, so that's just me. I don't know. Although I love talking to you guys once a month. Someday, maybe at the end of my reign, I'll know who is who. These guys are all gonna come in and put their name tags in front of everybody else.
And I need them all back. Except yours.
And make sure, get Ed has to have his name spelled right. Move we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you guys again. If anybody wants to attend the, I know, I can't, I'm pointing at it.